Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 360 podcast, where we have real conversations about business, leadership, and growth. We break down the strategies that help leaders move with clarity from being stuck to strategic. I'm Dr. Darrius Gena, along with my co-host, Dr. Gena Crawford, and tonight on this special edition of the 360, we're talking about something that's important to every business leader, and that's closing the books. You've had your year, you made your money, but now it's time to close the books and prepare your business financially for the end of the year, but also position yourself to be successful in the new year. And we're joined this evening with our special guest, Shamika Burrell of the Burrell's Enterprise. Welcome her, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Burrell. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and about what you do with the Burrell Enterprises?
So, yes, I am the CEO of the P.O.W.E.R Enterprise. I'm one of the managing consultant there. We are a fractional CFO service. We actually do fractional CFO in HR advisory firm. So, what I kind of do there to say all of that, what do? I handle people and profits. So that's exactly what I do. I handle people, HR, payroll benefits, do consulting for companies. I come in and help them streamline their HR system. Profits, I'm the money person. So I come in and I help you do budgeting, forecasting, strategic planning for the next year. And then we do bookkeeping as well.
That is awesome. That is awesome. When you like, we're talking about closing the books and getting ready to step into the new year. When you step into a business year in, what's one of the first things that you want to kind of start looking at when people are talking about closing the books for their business?
The first thing I look at is their system. First, of course, take to see what system do they have. Are you working out of QuickBooks, NetSuite? And then so when I look at your systems, I kind of look at then what is your balance? Is your information or is your accounting system reconciled? So that means do you have like is it balancing out at the end of the month? Because sometimes when we look at it, like, oh, I'm balancing out, I'm like, no, no, you're not. So so that's the first thing we kind of look at to kind of see your organization.
Okay, Dr. Crawford, you have a question you want to throw in there?
Yeah, I was over here thinking. So first of all, I handle people and profits. That sound like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Sound like a t-shirt. Sound like a t-shirt. I was over here thinking when you talk about systems. Oftentimes you have people who are especially entrepreneurs. When you're talking about the names of different systems, what do you say to those people who are saying, "I don't have anything that you just named"? And the money that I keep or my system is I have this notebook, I have a pen, and that's all I got. How do you work with those people, or how do you get those people or those business owners to understand the importance of systems, especially for people who are kind of just getting started
Mhm.
and kind of thinking, okay, we were talking backstage where I just made it to December, and they're just happy about making it to December. So what ideas or what suggestions do you have or tips do you have for those people who are saying, I don't really even have a system, but I still need to close out this year.
I'm going to tell you, we live in such a world of technology now. There's a lot of things so you said not all business owners feel they're ready for QuickBooks or a system. And sometimes you have to go back to old school spreadsheets. Uh, and so not all clients I can service because they're unfortunately not at a certain level. But of course I still give advice or what. So let me tell you one of the easy things to do. Fiverr, Fiverr. You
Yes.
can go on there and ask them to make you a operational budget spreadsheet. This will hold all your revenue expenses. If you actually go on the Burrell Enterprise by Monday, I actually give one to my clients that does not have spreadsheets. So when I was doing taxes and different things, I had spreadsheets because some of the clients used to come with shoe boxes. Now we're not doing the shoe boxes. You're gonna have to have this on a form. And the reason why I tell them this is because when you're dealing with the IRS, if they're irritated, trust me, they're gonna find something to irritate. Even if
Mm,
you seem like you have your things in order, even if it's on a notebook, you just have to make sure you date everything, every expense, every revenue. But at least it looks like that it's in order. But for tax purposes, I always tell people to at least get a spreadsheet, because if you can just upload something to the IRS or give them something versus you have to come down to their office and sit and get your paperwork, they irritated, so now they're gonna irritate you.
that's good. That's good. That's good advice.
Yeah. So you mentioned people coming with the shoebox, and uh, we may have some people who are, this is their first year in business, and they're getting ready to kind of close out, and they hear this thing about closing the books. What does that actually mean? What does that look like to close the books each year? What should they be putting together? What should they actually be doing? If they're going to someone, what should their experience actually look like?
Okay, so if we're going to somebody to close the books, one, I'm pretty sure most people are gonna probably do software, but it's kind of hard to still find people that just only do spreadsheets. So
Yeah.
let's just give a reasonable balance. So just say if you making 100,000 and under, with no employees, it's just you. So that's a checklist that you should always have. And so I go again, your revenue, every money that you owe. So when you talk about revenue is money. So revenue, let me, so there's, okay, so there's two ways to deal with this. I'm gonna go from the accounting side, then I'm gonna go from the tax side.
Mhm.
Accounting side, you do not count revenue until you render the service or the product. So say if I am if somebody say, hey, in 2026 I want you to do this service, blah blah blah, but I'm gonna pay you in 2025. Internally, you put it in your internal accounting. Um and when you actually do render the service for tax purposes, you have to count it, everything the government you made in 2025. So it's kind of hard when people say, oh, okay, it's just entering and putting out it, it's actually not. When you actually talking about running a business, closing books, you want to know what year you counting this money for two purposes. One, for tax purpose, everything that comes in you need to have counted. For internal purposes, you need to say, okay, no, that money is actually counted for next year.
Hmm.
That revenue is counted for next year. And so I would tell you that is your money. Call them people and ask them for their money. Um, so stop saying I'm not gonna call them. This is the good time. And then if you cannot collect money, this is a good time to start writing off things as a loss. You can start writing off, and don't send nobody no invoice. You know they're not gonna pay, but like, well, she told me to write it off. No, there's
Hmm.
there's other things you have to do. You have to show that you tried to collect the money and different things. But you can start taking those items and start writing them off. So connect revenue, get your expenses, anything that you paid for, not in your personal account.
Okay.
Make sure that you have a business account. When you are starting a business, there are some things that is not considered totally expenses. It's called the cost of doing business. And so make sure that you have your business account. Now, for people who are that are solopreneurs, this is why you need the spreadsheet, because sometimes as solopreneurs, you're not official LLC yet. You have things in your personal bank account. This is why you need to have a list saying that this is my revenue, this is what I made. At the You should have been doing this in January, but at the end of the month, totaling your revenue, everything that you got, so you can make a when you pull your banks, you can say, hey, I highlight this match what I got. This is my revenue. My expenses, the same way. You put in your expenses. This is for beginners. If you have a notebook or a spreadsheet, this is my expenses, and then that's your expenses. And so when you close these things out, it should be in your revenue as coming in your bank or in your expense part coming out. So you have to go to your bank account and match everything with your bank
Mm.
account. For starter.
Okay. So how how often should business owners be actually reviewing their numbers during the year so that when December comes or when January hits and it's time to start putting all this together, that they're not in a scramble? How often should they be reviewing their numbers?
At the end of each month.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the next month. So
Okay.
some, it depends on, like, we have some clients like their closing is like they have to have it, 7 days after each month. You reconcile your bank accounts, everything you spent in Capital One, everything that was brought in, you reconcile it. You should be able to see it in your bank statement.
I
Okay.
have a question. What
Mhm,
do you say to those entrepreneurs who, especially they're just getting started,
mhm,
and what do you say to those people who they're just really kind of giddy about doing business,
mhm.
but they're not necessarily looking at the numbers. They're not necessarily looking at their books. They're just kind of assuming, well, hey, I just got paid. Somebody just paid me $20. Somebody just paid me $100, but they're not necessarily looking at the books. Is that how do you correct that behavior, or what would you say to those people to say, no, this is a necessity?
One, I tell them it's a hobby. It's not a business. That's exactly, So you train it like a hobby. So
Mm,
here's the thing: you don't have to fully know accounting to just do checks and balances. As simple as like what you're making and what you're bringing out. So you need to check one because um, one of the things you need to check is because how do you know you're making money? Sometimes we have people and they be like, oh, well, my company not making money. And I say, well, you are making money. You're just spending it differently.
yeah.
And so, when you look at it, I'm going to tell you two failures from business owners that sometimes I see coming in: treating the business or the money like it's your own. And
Mm.
so when I say that, not knowledgeable of what's going on in the business, sometimes we tie things as a business owner like, oh, I can't do this because this, but you have to think of it like this is a business investment to get me to the next part. So you can't be like, okay,
Sure.
well, I'm gonna keep these $2 for myself. I know everybody got mad at Miss Tabitha Brown when she said keep your job, but sometimes you have to. Because I'm gonna tell you, one of the biggest burnout in business is not paying yourself.
Mm,
Feel like you
mm,
working in your company for free.
mm-hmm.
And so whether that's called is taking an owner withdrawal. Every month, I have seen people living off of their business. Um, living off their business, saying that they're using their business account to do everything. And then end of the year they come and then they think we're going to take this off, sir. I cannot take you off at Bojangles because you stopped for lunch. That is not an expense. You know, or so you have to be careful about that. But I'm telling you, it is not as hard as you think. You can download. This is just I know people with AI. You can download your bank account and say, "Hey, tell me what this is and this is," and upload it to AI, and it will tell you. So I think now, it's no excuse. You don't have to be afraid of your numbers because how would you know where you're going if
Mm-hmm.
you don't know your numbers?
That's a good point. So you have people they're making money. They got money coming in. They're doing business, so they have the revenue coming in. But what does a successful year look like just beyond revenue? Because you can have the money coming in and still not be a successful business. So what does a successful year look like beyond just the revenue?
A successful year looks like whatever your goals is. So just
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
because you're in the red does not mean that it's not a successful year.
Okay.
So that's one thing. Another successful year looks like cash flow. Cash is still king. And so how much you have in your business to pay your liabilities. So even at the end of the year, if you was able to balance your revenue and your expenses, but also if you're able to move to a next level. So just say like you might revenue is not your only goal, but your next goal might be, so now I'm going to outsource something. And so that can be a successful business to use. So next year I'm not doing all of these PowerPoints. I can bring somebody else in
Mm-hmm.
and do a PowerPoint. And so those are the things you have to look at. I'm gonna tell you one of the best ways to have a successful business to add somebody else to it, because when you are looking for capital, they want to know who's all with you. Can you afford another person if we give you this money? Can you do this? So you have to have that. And one of the biggest things I say, look at your cash flow. One of the successful things in a business you can do, we had one business owner a year ago, and people laugh when I say this, was spending most of his money on pens because somebody told him it was a good marketing idea. So he was spending most of his money. He was stressing, but I'm talking about a lot of money on pens and notepads. And so he didn't. Nobody caught it because it was not categorized right. So you can't just say this is an expense. You need to
Mm-hmm.
know that this is office supplies. But this was not just office supplies. This was marketing. And so nobody was using them pens. Nobody called him from them pens. And so that was money you could have took and did
Yeah.
something else. So it's finding leakage in your cash flow. Where are you spending money that's not really making money? Or you can't reinvest it back into your business. Don't go buy them pens and papers.
You mentioned finding leakage in
Hmm.
your company. So what kind of, so we look at data to kind of help us make decisions, and everybody wants to grow the business and what have you, but what questions should a business owner or business leader be asking themselves, like, over the past year, that the numbers can actually give them the answers to? Like, if they're looking to expand, if they're looking to bring on somebody else, or they want to buy more equipment, what questions should they be asking themselves about their numbers to help them make those decisions?
One thing I ask my clients is, what story do you want to tell?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so that's the
good.
first thing before we get into accounting, because really accounting tells a story. That's what it does. It tells your financial story or your growth path. So say if your growth path is not strictly like, I want to be in a 30% margin right now, I want to be stable. I want to be stable, because actually money coming in does not always mean profits. So I want to just be stable. I want to pay my employees. So this is what you start asking yourself as a business. Do your first year, what is your goal? And then how can I give my money a mission to my goal? And so if your goal is to be sustainable, right now, my first year in business, all I want to do is first um make sure I don't have to go back to a 9 to 5. So my first year, all I'm trying to do is make my salary. And I tell people, be realistic about making your salary. Because say when you have a W-2 paycheck, say, okay, you say, okay, well, I need to make 50,000 in the first year to cover my salary. In actuality, you might only need to make 40,000, because just think about it. You don't have insurance. You might not do the 401k, and we just talking about basic. And so you take 40,000 instead of your full 50,000, because first just make your gross pay. I mean your net pay after taxes. So when I first started business and I went into business, I wasn't trying to make the full gross pay. I just needed to make the net pay, because I just need to make what I was able to spend when I was at the job. I'm hoping that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
makes
Okay.
sense. That makes sense. That makes sense.
I have a question. As an entrepreneur, and well, entrepreneur or a person who's been in business for quite some time, when it's like a red flag to say I need help. Oftentimes people will, because this is my baby, this is my thing. I don't want to seem like a failure, or I don't want to seem like things are out of control. When is that pivotal point where you say, "Hey, red flag, I need help"? help with outsourcing, help with systems. When does it get to that point to say I need help? Because sometimes people are overwhelmed,
Mhm.
but just for the sake of putting on appearances, it's like, oh no, things are fine. Oh no, things are great. And literally you are
Yeah.
sinking in paperwork, you're sinking in, not being able to handle everything. And you kind of rely on the people that you know as clients, or you're saying something that you can't necessarily follow through with. So when is that red flag, especially as you're closing out the year, getting ready for the next year? What are those red flags to say, I think I may need some help with this?
Mhm. So one of the red flags, I'm going to answer these two ways. One, as closing out the year, one of the red flags is if it's December the 12th and you still haven't reconciled January. That's a red flag. That's a red flag right there. I don't know what comedian said when you was they asked to borrow money for the eviction, and he said, well, why didn't you call me when you was late the first time? And so that's what we do sometimes. We wait till 12 months, or when our company did taxes, people used to wait to they give us the paperwork and realize they didn't have their stuff together. So I think one of the red flags is being able to acknowledge that, okay, I'm not going to be able to do this step by myself.
Hmm.
So even after the first month, you realize you can't do it. I'd rather go ahead and get training in the first month, basic training on how to put things into a spreadsheet or QuickBooks. Um, so I think that's one of the red flags. As an entrepreneur, I think one of the red flags is that area of the week you're trying to give up because the task is too much.
Yeah.
It is a different is running your business and then actually being working in your business. So you have to make that decision if working in your business is going to take more time than actually running your business. Then you're going to have to say, okay, I might need to get help.
That's
We're
good.
having great conversation with our guest, Shamika Burrell of the Burrell Enterprises. For those who are just joining us, any business leaders we have out there who have financial questions about closing your books, please feel free to go ahead and drop your question in the comments so that we can get an answer to your question. Uh, I got this question. So we're talking about closing the books, and people are coming to you now. And what are some of the what are the most year-end tax mistakes that you repeatedly see so that our guests don't make those same mistakes when they come see you?
One of individual or business owners.
Let's go with business owners.
Okay, business owners thinking just because you bought something you can take it off on your taxes. That's probably the biggest thing that I've seen, that not fully having an understanding of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Um and then realizing going to other places and they saying that Trump, he didn't pay any taxes. Well, that's a little different from the status you're at. Not knowing that so how taxes work, or liability, your tax liability is any money you make. So once you make your revenue, and then once they count off your expense, so you have $100,000, you have expenses, $70,000, that $30,000, they still want that's what they're going to tax you on. So sometimes people come to me thinking that, oh, okay, well, I spent this money, so I'm going to get a refund. It doesn't always work that way. You have to know if you have this amount. And then that's another thing that I tell my clients, depending on your life status, stop letting people tell you to write off everything.
Mm.
Because, like, just say if you're a business owner, you're trying to buy a house, and so you don't wrote off everything and use, well, I didn't make any money yet. Then it's like, okay, well, we can't give you a house because it does not show you made any money.
That's a good point. And I want to ask you a question about this writing off thing.
Mhm.
And I want to ask this question from the perspective of my creative accounting people. So let's put it like this. So say me and my wife go on vacation. We go on vacation, and at this vacation, we talk a little bit about our business, and we declared this vacation to be our annual business uh, conference. Are we able to write that trip off?
The long answer is yes to a certain extent.
Okay.
So it had to be the purpose of a business trip. And
Okay.
so you had went there for business, and then you just extending your stay for for the trip.
Okay.
But sometimes people try to write off their children meal, their this and that. So it's to a certain extent. One of the, I say, cheat code in the IRS is that you can write off anything that you can save is for business purposes,
Mm-hmm.
but you're gonna have to define why that's a business purpose. But if you're just taking a vacation and you're like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna just sit in a meeting and talk about coffee, it does not really work that way. You have to go for the purpose of business
Okay.
and then extend your trip.
Okay. Okay.
So that means what you do is you schedule all your business meetings in Aruba.
Yeah.
Hey, and I'm telling you, have this stuff in a operational agreement. You cannot just pick up one day. So this is how we structure our company. So we structure in a way that 3 days out of the month, we go to Aruba and we settle, whatever business manner. You have to have the itinerary to the business. So
Okay.
it's not like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this and do this. Well, it's like, okay, well, everybody has to meet at dinner and discuss this. But it's if your is your wife in the business, or you just talking about, I just went to Aruba and I took my family.
Okay.
Um, no,
Yeah.
sir.
So again, to those who are just joining us, we're talking about closing the books, especially for those of you who have businesses. So what would you say are the decisions that absolutely have to be made before December 31st,
Mhm.
tax wise? That's a matter of tax wise.
Tax wise, if you, oh, and I just want to explain this real quick, because this tax wise, be careful if you are becoming a X corp tax for that tax liability to be double taxed. So these are things that needs to be discussed. How we're going to structure our business, because that's how you do your accounting, accrual based, cash based. These things have to be discussed before your taxes. Secondly, the structure of your business, do it aligns with your accounting, with the accounting rules. Secondly, well, that's thirdly, things that has to be done is, again, collecting your money, collecting all your expenses. So if you don't do nothing but sit down and say, this was my revenue, this was my expenses, and so have that in order. Have all your receipts in order. And if you are your expenses, you definitely need to have them categorized. You can't just throw expenses, even though when it goes on taxes, sometimes it might be, you see your expenses, but you need to have them categorized. Like, this is office expense, because on a schedule C, you would see that. So let me correct that, because on a schedule C, it will say office expense. And sometimes those are the things that get flagged.
That's good. I have a question.
Hmm.
So, aside from the monetary piece, closing out the year, how important is it for business owners, entrepreneurs, or whoever to take a break before the new year begins? And when I say that, I was literally driving home today, and I was like, "Wait a minute! It's the second full week in December already."
Yeah.
And so, you really only have two full more weeks left. And then now we're ushered into 2026. So how or what would you suggest? How important is it just to kind of sit back and take a breather, or sit back and kind of, you know, um, celebrate the success that you had this year, or even if you did not meet your goal, how important is it for business owners to just kind of take a step back, because what happens is we move right into the next year, and the next year is going
Yeah.
like going fast. So what would you say, how would you speak to that?
I would say, just as you do PTO time, at a W-2 job, you should do it at your work. I mean, in your business. I think it's varied to have a look back day, or a
That's good.
rest day. Even if you take one day to look back, and then the next day I'm going to rest from everything. I'm gonna take a rest so I can assess what I'm doing or
Mhm.
figuring it out. Because if you confused, then you'll lead in the new year's confused. So rest should always be scheduled in your budget, especially for small business owners. That's one of the things we do ask. Say, so how do you, when you pay yourself enough to put enough to the side to say this is your PTO day, just to put it in layman's terms.
That's good.
Yeah,
'Cause I don't
yeah,
think that's something that we really think about,
yeah.
especially as a business owner. Is sometimes you feel like you have to be on all the time. And so, to take a break, you feel like, okay, I'm wasting time or I'm not being productive. But yeah, I think I love the fact that it's like, no, you need to take time to look back. You need to take time to reflect, okay, what worked well, what did not work well. Again, like you say, you go into the new year confused. And so it begins a cycle that seems to be never ending.
And I think you ought to build on community. One of the things is you as good as your strongest partners. So one of the things that I do, I mean, I just happen to have a womb buddy, that does accounting as well. Shout out to TP Financials. Um, but I am able to entrust her with my clients and information. So when we shut down, we don't completely shut down. We have somebody.
Hmm.
So you should always, as a business owner, even if it's not in your first year, to think about how do I want to duplicate or partnership with somebody that emails still get answers, that things get answered, but nothing is more important than your health. Because if you're in a
Yes.
hospital, the
Yes.
business not gonna run anyway.
Yeah.
So
I got one more question for you, and it's in two parts, um, because I'm sure we're gonna have some people starting some businesses coming up in January, and we have some people who have businesses now, and they want to make sure that they start right. What does starting the year right actually mean financially? And the second part to that is, what are some early mistakes that people quietly make that sabotages them for the entire year?
one of the things is, okay, so the first question, give me the first question one more time.
What does starting the year right actually mean financially? What does that actually look like? What does that actually mean?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It doesn't. It is no one answer, and I'm gonna say this because it's pertaining to your situation. So
Okay.
starting right for me might be different. It's like I want everything closed out, so on a new year my books look fresh. Starting somebody else, meaning just getting started, might be their new year. Opening that bank account, you all year you've been commingling funds. So starting for you might be okay, taking the structure that I didn't have right, excuse me, or the systems that I didn't have, and just put them into place. That can be a start of the year for you. So I think it's kind of depend. You might then get your vacation at the end of the year, so I'm gonna plan it at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So financially, I think it kind of just ties into what your goal is.
Okay. And what mistakes do people tend to make? Just this quiet mistake, or just unknowing mistake that people just make right out the gate, and it kind of messes them up and sabotages them for the whole year, and they're just trying to play catch up from that point on.
Ignoring your finances,
Okay.
ignoring ignoring your money, ignoring asking for a solution, how to, like, I'm not ready for a system. What is the other? What is else something I can do? I think having that quietly being ashamed. I'm telling you, the best time to
Mm-hmm.
start learning is when you don't have any money at the time. So that way, it ain't hard to reconcile, it ain't hard to fix. So I think quietly, being, people think sometimes you have to wait till you uh, get money to have an accountant, but I mean, we still do consulting services, so you can still get consultant
Okay. So we got a
consulting.
question in the comments. It says, "What are the pros and cons of not paying yourself when you start your business?"
um I cannot think of one pro. I mean, one con. I mean, hold on, let me say it. I can't think of a reason not to pay yourself.
Okay.
If you don't pay yourself, it's a con from the beginning. Um, so you con yourself out of doing volunteer work. You should start a nonprofit. So so because people think when you pay yourself, you want to get into the habit of paying yourself. So even if you pay yourself $50, one of the pro things of paying yourself is one, you realize you're working towards something.
Mm-hmm.
So one second, it shows that you believe in yourself. I believe in myself
That's
enough
good.
to pay myself something. um Third, when you're looking for investors, if you're not even making money to pay yourself, how you gonna make money to pay me back?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be burnt out.
Yeah.
So, not paying yourself in a business, people think that you don't have to get on payroll. But when I first started my business, I had took 10% for everything that I made. $50, I took five. So I mean, on the way home, I got a cheeseburger, but at least I
Yeah.
got something, with my money.
Yeah.
And so either by that, then I start what I end up doing was start taking the money, and so taking the owner withdrawal. So even though there was $5, if I found five clients, five times five, then I take $25 at the end of the week and make Friday my payday. So that's how that works. But I think you should always take pay yourself.
Now, she just gave y'all a partial strategy of how to set up a system to pay yourself. I
Yeah.
hope y'all were paying
Yeah.
attention to that.
Yeah.
So how do you or how do you help people kind of shift the mindset when you feel guilty about paying yourself? Because some people feel guilty. They feel like they're taking away from the business rather than allowing the business to grow financially. So, what do you say to those people? And that was really good. It's like paying yourself shows that you actually, you believe in what you're doing. But what do you say to those people who still feel a little level of guilt because it's like, I'm not really making the money that I thought I was going to make. And so if the money is coming to me, how do I not feel guilty about looking at my financial statement and I'm like, ooh, that's that cheeseburger.
I, don't- I think that, so you have to shift your mindset. You're not a household employee of your business. You're the owner of your business. So you set yourself with an owner mentality.
I
Would you
like
go
that.
work for your job for free? So would you clock into your job every day for free? Why would you
No,
clock into your business for free?
that's
And
good.
so that's what you have to think of. So that's how you would look at. And when you get into the position of asking for funding, asking for more money, and they see that you're not even paying yourself, why would they give you anything? You don't you'll get burnt out. And then it also tells you don't have a strategy. So
Mm.
it exposes the financial part of your business. But at least I have a strategy that by the end of the month, I'm gonna take $30. And so if you can't take $30 to pay yourself, then it's like, okay, then again, you have an expensive hobby.
You have any other questions, Dr. Crawford?
I'm over here. I'm just like my wheels are just turning. My wheels are turning because you have so many people who, you get to this point in the year, and again, their idea of success is, "Ooh, I made it to the end of a year," and
Yeah.
so not looking at the financial aspect, not looking at even the time to rest, not even looking at the fact that is this really a hobby or is this really a business? And so I think sometimes we push this whole push the entrepreneur piece, or we push business and push business on everybody. And
Yeah.
so now you some people feel like, everybody has to have a business. But I'm doing this thing and I'm calling it a business, but what is it really? And so looking at all the different pieces that come along with business is something I think that we, should continue to have conversations about. So this was absolutely phenomenal. Like literally, my wheels are turning. Like there are so many people that I know personally, and sometimes myself included, to say, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about it like that. But just the way that you're explaining it, the idea of, so would you go to work for free? So why would you not, do the same as a business owner? Because I'm going to work and I'm showing people I believe in this company, so that's why I'm showing up. So not to show up for your own company.
Yeah.
What does that say?
And I think this, um like Dr. Judah said, that revenue is not your whole business. It's a
Right.
portion of your business. Because remember, on the other side of business, we handle people. Some people fail because they don't have the right people, or they're not
Mm-hmm.
the right people. And sometimes that, so it's a bigger scale from business. When I first went in business, it just afforded me the opportunity to be home with my children. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
about making this much money. So I tell people all the time, do not set yourself up for failure. Oh, that's the question you asked. I'm a little late. It takes me 2 to 3 business days. But 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 don't set yourself up for failure comparing yourself to social media, comparing yourself to
Yes.
somebody saying, "Hey, I made 6 figures." I can tell you now, I see people that tells me, "Oh, we're $1 million company." Then I come in and give them an invoice. They be like, "Well, you know what? We can't afford it." I thought you were just on, what you call saying you're $1 million company. So you don't get in the hype of
Mm-hmm.
business. Everything should be a phase in life. Remember, Amazon did not start off at Amazon.
Right.
They sold books at first, then they switched to Amazon. So it compiles as a thing. So I don't want you to get discouraged, because business is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Business is hard, but there still is a way that you can do business at your level. I used to pay for courses. Say, okay, I'm going to pay for $1 million course to be $1 million, but I never had any structure to even prepare for the $1 million. So that was just really just another tax write-off, and I have to, redo it at another time. But I'm just saying, so sometimes we get scared by what is they put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get scared. The first beginning is, if you really want to know what to do, start a LLC, start a business bank account. While you're on your if you're still on a 9 to 5, take a portion of that money, write an operational agreement out, and put that money in your business account, and start putting money away for business.
We got one more question in the comments. It says, when should you start building your business credit? And any advice on how and who to use to build your business credit?
You would have to come to the course. No, no. No, so I'm gonna tell you the easy way to build business credit. I'm gonna give a disclaimer here, because people is always after business credit, but
Yeah.
you have to pay that money back.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to, one, make a time to say, okay, do my business support business credit first. So am I shifting to pay employees to do something? But if you're trying to establish business, this is no what do you call it, promotion for these cards, but I'm just telling you. So once you get your LLC, you get an EIN number, and then you can start applying for, just say, like, you're gonna have to in the beginning leverage your personal credit. But it's a good thing, because you can get Capital One, get a small card for just office supplies, those stuff you need for pencils and paper, that money that you put in for your from your 9 to 5, put that money into your business bank account and pay, that credit card off. So
Mm-hmm.
start with that. Stuff you use every day. Amazon has a business a thing. You ask them to do that. Anywhere that you go get supplies from, ask them, can they be a vendor? You sign up for Don's and Bradstreet number.
Yeah.
This is how they identify your credit worthiness in business. It works a little different. Than, it's not like you have a high credit score and you're like, oh, I'm in the 800s, I'm good. Business credit works a little different. Sometimes the higher the number is, the risk you are. So it works a little bit different than your regular FICO score. But just use
So
just
listen,
use your vendors you use every day.
yeah. Well, listen, everyone, we have had the pleasure of Shamika Burrell of the Burrell's Enterprise talking to us about closing the books and getting yourself prepared to step into the new year. Now, Ms. Burrell, you have an event tomorrow, the CEO Shift.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it, and is there still room available for people who want to register and be in that room so they can get some of those insights, like you
Yes.
just shared?
Listen, it is free 99. Free 99. So
Free
you have to
99,
actually
y'all.
go to you have to go to shamikaburrell.com to register. And so it's called the CEO shift. I'm going to give you 3 out of 6 frameworks to want to reshape your mindset, have you do a blueprint, and also have your financial system set up. So it's not a master class, it's a mastermind. So it's participation. So sometimes we like to just get information, but we're actually going through the steps. So if you like, I don't know where to start, I don't know how to start, I don't know how to scale, I don't know how to shift my mindset. This is the mastermind for you. It's for ladies. Sorry, man. I'm gonna have an open one for everybody else, but it's for Christian women that wants to guide it. Look, if you're not Christian, still join. We'll get you saved by the end of the class. But but it's really to unchurch and unlearn people about business and finances and shifting your mindset, and it give you steps.
Listen, everybody. Listen, everybody. She is giving away a wealth
Yes.
of information and knowledge in this course. A great mindset shift is going to happen in this course. And she says she's giving it away for free. I dropped the link in the chat. Go to shamikaburrell.com to register for the CEO shift. It is going down tomorrow. I can guarantee you that you will be tremendously blessed, women, because we all talk about starting businesses,
Hmm.
but we have to educate ourselves so that when the business starts, you don't put yourself out of business by what you don't know. Amen.
Amen.
We want to thank Miss Burrell for
And
joining us again, for closing the books. She's been a blessing to us today. We have been thoroughly, thoroughly blessed and educated. And if this conversation has highlighted anything for you at all, it's that clarity comes from doing more. It doesn't come from it. Clarity does not come from doing more. It comes from thinking well
Yeah.
and from having the right, from being in the right environment to do it. So for any leaders who need the space to slow down the noise,
Hmm.
to help make real decisions, we have For Leaders Only by Catalyst. It's going to be a private strategy environment designed for that exact purpose, going down in February. And for those who want to go deeper, we got the Power Table coming up in April, where leaders will step into a structured, guided conversation that'll help you flesh out all the insights for the execution that you need. If either of those sound like something that's going to be a blessing to you or a help to you, go to our website, catalyst360consultant.com. We're going to drop the link in the chat right now, too. But again, go to shamikaburrell.com and register, ladies, for the CEO shift. You will be
Yes.
blessed. We thank you all for joining us on this edition of the 360. Thank you for hanging out with us. We will see you all next time.